Welcome back to News Desk on Joy News on Multi TV. My name is Beatrice Edu. Let's talk some election now. And the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, of the Electoral Commission is set to hold a crunch meeting today. This follows days of public debate over claims by the New Patriotic Party and other opposition parties that the current voters register is bloated. Our political correspondent Malik Dabu joins me in the studio with more on this. Malik, first of all, tell us why this issue of voters register has become a big matter.
Well, it's a big matter because the NPP believes that the last elections were not lost fairly. They brought a petition to the Supreme Court asking that the results be nullified. The Supreme Court did not hold that view. The petition they brought was dismissed by a 5-4 majority decision. 9 Supreme Court justices heard it, dismissed it by 5-4. The party went out to look for information to back their claim that, in their view, the electoral rule that was used to conduct the elections that they lost, and on which they lost both on the field and in court, was not credible enough, and that the results were tinkered with. So they compared the voter registers of Ghana and Togo, one of our neighboring countries. In fact, it's not only Togo, they are comparing with other neighboring countries as well, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast. They started with the Togolese one, and if Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is to be believed, he says that when they checked about 10% of the 2 registers, they found out that more than 76,000 Togolese have found their way into the Ghana register. Their view is, if you have foreigners voting in our elections, it means that they are determining the electoral outcomes when they have no business doing so. They are particularly worried because the 76,000 is so massive a number that it can actually influence the outcome of an election. In 2008, in the first round, Nana Addo needed 70,000 votes to have secured victory on the first round, but he lost. In the runoff, he lost by 40,000 votes. So 76,000, if it is proven that all these people are Togolese and they are on the electoral rule and are influencing the electoral outcome, then they believe the electoral rule must be compiled, a new one must be compiled. The governing National Democratic Congress does not share that view. The NDC believes that there are inbuilt mechanisms in our electoral systems that allow the NPP to raise its concern and get these people, if indeed they are Togolese, removed from the electoral register. It does not have to take the compilation of a new register to cure the mischief that the NPP is trying to deal with. So now you have these competing arguments, and the NPP submitted its findings to the Electoral Commission as part of efforts to pressurize the electoral governing body to compile a new register. Because the NDC opposes this view, it was important that the Electoral Commission, which is supposed to be an impartial arbiter between these 2 political groups, call the 2 parties together to sit down and look at the evidence adduced by the NPP and see whether there is merit. And if there is merit, how do you resolve these difficulties? So that is the reason for today's IPAC meeting.
So you've spoken about a few of them, but do we know exactly some of the details that this IPAC meeting will be discussing?
The IPAC meetings definitely will be looking at the issues raised. The NPP did not only raise the issue about the Togolese being on the register. The NPP also argued that if you look at some of the constituencies, primarily those on border regions, you'd find that the increases in the voter population in some specific constituencies raise concerns in their view. Dr. Bawumia argues that a 10 to 15% increase in voter register between 2 elections is acceptable. When it crosses to 25%, it is worrying. When it gets to 40-50%, it is absurd. He points out that in some constituencies, K2 South, Adenta, and other constituencies, they found out that ranging between 28 to 50% or 56%, they found out that the voter populations have gone up between 2008 and 2012. That's one of the reasons that will be dealt with. Asedi Nketiah's response to them is that economic, social, and some other reasons and cultural reasons can account for these increases which the NPP believe are abnormal. Asedi Nketiah argues, if, for example, mining gold is found in some village, a lot of people are going to move to that area in search of gold. Because there is economic activity, you have a large concentration of people there. If electoral registration were to take place, all these people would register in those areas. For him, this accounts for the situation where you have voter numbers in some constituencies going up beyond a certain threshold set by the MPP. But these matters will be discussed at a round table by all the parties. I believe the smaller parties will be present and they will look at the merits of the case and determine whether there is some sense in dealing with them and but having Malik, a clean
yeah, we understand. We know that these issues have gone before the EC before and they've been thrown out. So what should we expect?
At the time that the MPP brought the issues before the EC, it did not have the evidence that it has produced. If the evidence it produced is credible and it can be proven that a larger majority of the people that they listed as 76,000 are indeed Togolese and not Ghanaians, those people have no right to be on the register. The MPP didn't have this evidence when they presented their case before the Electoral Commission. Dr. Boumier described the 76,000 as a smoking gun. Indeed, it is smoking gun if it is proven. It may well be the case that these are Ghanaians who have registered on the Togolese register. It may well be the case. The MPP does not believe that is. The MPP believes these are Togolese who have registered in Ghana and are trying to influence the electoral process. The MPP's argument is that there was a certain window that was opened when the state decided to allow persons who didn't have the means to register with the National Health Insurance Scheme in order that they can have some reasonable access to health care. Some constituencies, two regions, the Brown Ahafo region and the Volta region, recorded astronomical figures in that registration. So a lot of people had access to our vote, what do you call it? The NHIS card. Now, this NHIS card was used as a basis to register for elections.
But at least now we do know that
Abu Ramadan went to the Supreme Court and challenged that decision. The Supreme Court said that the NHIS card was not evidence of a person's citizenship on the basis of which one could qualify to vote. So the MPP says, okay, if you have high numbers of people, most likely foreigners, registering with the NHIS in order that they can have access to health care, they then use the NHIS card to go and register to become voters. And the Supreme Court of Ghana says that that card cannot be used to register to vote. Then it is better that you compile an entirely new register, taking into account the ruling of the Supreme Court, which then means that anybody who has NHIS card cannot use it to register to vote.
Of course, Malik, we already know that the NDC, briefly, the NDC held a press conference responding to what the NPP had come out with. But we are learning that the party has formally written a petition to the EC. Do we know about that?
Of course, the NDC is opposed to some of the issues raised by the NPP. But of course, this is not new, because in 2008, the reverse was the case. The NDC made all the allegations about the voter register at the time being bloated. The MPP said that there was no basis for the NDC to be making those arguments. Now the tables have turned. The MPP are those crying, the NDC are those defending. It's just a game of chess. It's just once the tables turn, you will always have people taking the opposition that they originally took. So it's not new. They have written, they have made their arguments. Asidin Kete made some of those arguments in the press conference that you referred to. But I believe that after today's IPAC meeting, a lot of the issues will be trashed out.
And indeed, we'll be looking forward to hearing these issues. Thank you very much, Malik Dabo of our political desk.